South Korea's Liberal Party candidate Lee Jae-myung was elected president in the country's snap election on Tuesday. Lee's victory comes 6 months to the day after he evaded military barricades to vote against a shock martial law decree from his ousted predecessor, former President Yoon Suk-yeol.
I will fulfill the first mission the people have entrusted to me, which is to overcome the insurrection and make sure there will be no military coup that threatens the people with the weapons entrusted by them.
Lee called Tuesday's election Judgment Day against the martial law that brought down Yoon, Lee's main political rival, and against the People Power Party's failure to distance itself from that decision. Lee's conservative opponent Kim Moon-soo of the People Power Party conceded the race in brief remarks to reporters.
I humbly accept the will of the people. I extend my congratulations to candidate Lee Jae-myung.
Kim was Yoon's labor minister when the former leader declared martial law on December 3rd. Yoon was later impeached by parliament, which Lee led. The Constitutional Court then removed Yoon from office in April, less than 3 years into his 5-year term. The martial law decree and the 6 months of turmoil that followed marked a stunning political self-destruction for Yoon, effectively handing the presidency to Lee. Nearly 80% of South Korea's more than 44 million eligible voters cast their ballots, the highest turnout for a presidential election in the country since 1997.
Elon Musk has waded into the debate over Donald Trump's sweeping tax and spending bill, and it seems he's not on the president's side. Posting on X, Musk said he couldn't stand it anymore and had to speak up. He said, quote, "This massive, outrageous, pork-filled congressional spending bill is a disgusting abomination. Shame on those who voted for it. You know you did wrong." Musk said the bill would massively increase the U.S. budget deficit and leave citizens crushed by unsustainable public debts. The House of Representatives last month passed the so-called One Big Beautiful Bill by one vote. Now the Senate aims to pass it over the next month, though it's expected to revise the House version. The nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office has estimated the measure could add $3.8 trillion to federal debts, which already exceed $36 trillion. White House spokesperson Caroline Leavitt says Musk's opinions were no surprise.
Look, the president already knows where Elon Musk stood on this bill. It doesn't change the president's opinion. This is one big, beautiful bill, and he's sticking to it.
House Speaker Mike Johnson was also dismissive, saying, "My friend Elon is terribly wrong." But some Republican fiscal hawks have called for changes to the bill to limit debt increases. Musk's intervention also adds to signs that he is trying to distance himself from Trump. The billionaire had previously been close to the president, playing a key role in efforts to cut government spending. But he recently stepped down from his role in the so-called Department of Government Efficiency and announced he would refocus on his businesses. Investors have been concerned that his closeness to Trump was alienating customers at his car firm Tesla, where sales have slumped in some markets.
Nigeria's defense chief has called for the country's borders with its foreign neighbors to be completely fenced. That suggestion was made by General Christopher Musa at a security conference in the capital Abuja on Tuesday, as a way of curbing the entrance of armed groups amid escalating insecurity.
People say, no, it's impossible. Pakistan fenced 1,350-kilometer border with Afghanistan. That was the only time they had peace. Saudi Arabia and Iraq, 1,400 kilometers fenced completely. Can we start thinking of fencing our borders? We have 1,500 kilometers with Niger Republic, 1,900 kilometers with Cameroon. Chad is there. All over us, surrounded by Francophone countries, and the Sahel is heating up.
This is the first time a top Nigerian official has publicly suggested such a measure. Nigeria's military has been stretched by widespread security issues. In particular, a 16-year insurgency in the northeast led by Boko Haram and its offshoot Islamic State West Africa province has killed thousands of Nigerians and displaced tens of thousands. Authorities often attribute the prolonged insurgency, including recent attacks on military stations, to foreign fighter infiltration. Nigeria's longest border is with Cameroon, a Boko Haram hotspot. Neighboring Niger and Chad have also lost territory to armed groups. Musa warned that Nigeria's perceived wealth makes it a target.
Because they believe Nigeria is huge, Nigeria is big, Nigeria is rich.
And said fully securing and taking control of the borders is critical for the country's survival.
The number of people who have fled Sudan since the beginning of its civil war has surpassed 4 million, UN refugee agency officials said on Tuesday. Here's agency spokesperson Eugene Byun.
A devastating milestone in what is the world's most damaging displacement crisis at the moment.
Byun said if the conflict continues, the agency expects thousands more to flee, putting regional and global stability at stake. Sudan erupted in violence in April 2023 and shares borders with 7 countries, including Chad, Egypt, and Eritrea. UNHCR's Dessous Patrice Ahunsu said shelter conditions are dire in Chad due to funding shortages, with only 14% of funding appeals met.
More than 800,000 refugees more has crossed into Chad, bringing the total of refugees, the total of Sudanese refugees in Chad to 1.2 million. So the number of Sudanese refugees has tripled without a significant increase in funding. Life-saving assistance cannot be delivered at the scale and at the speed that is required.
Ahunsu said many of those fleeing Sudan reported surviving terror and violence. Other refugees told stories of armed groups taking their horses and donkeys and forcing adults to draw their own family members by cart as they fled, said Ahunsu.
Meta Platforms announced on Tuesday that it struck a nuclear power purchase agreement with Constellation Energy, a deal that would keep one of its reactors running for 20 years. It's the first deal of its kind for the Facebook parent and comes as big tech companies look for ways to secure electricity to help power artificial intelligence and data centers. The reactor, part of Constellation's Clinton Clean Energy Center in Illinois, is currently subsidized by the state. But that deal expires in 2027, which is when Meta will step in to supply the plant with an unspecified amount of money to help with relicensing and operations. The deal could serve as a model for other big tech companies, with AI creating a surge in U.S. power demand for the first time in 2 decades. One analyst told Reuters the deal could be the first of many following President Donald Trump's recent executive orders aimed at quadrupling U.S. nuclear capacity. Shares of Constellation Energy rose nearly 6% in morning trading, but paired some of those gains later in the session. U.S. stock indexes closed higher on Tuesday, with the Dow and S&P 500 each gaining roughly 0.5% and the Nasdaq climbing 0.8%. Tuesday brought more mixed economic data, including a report from the Labor Department that showed job openings increased in April, while layoffs also picked up. Ross Mayfield is investment strategist at Baird.
The big one for investors is going to be a pretty solid JOLTS jobs report. There's a lot of anxiety about where the labor market stands today. We get some good data, some data that shows some cracks. And ultimately, if you're going to build the bull case for the economy, you have to bring the labor market and the consumer along. So I think getting that pop in job openings and seeing a little bit of resilience from the labor market is helping things today. And then you have continued momentum from big tech and AI adjacent names. So that obviously is helping given the concentration there.
That tech momentum was courtesy of chip makers NVIDIA and Broadcom, which each rose roughly 3%. Broadcom hit a fresh record high after the company said it has begun to ship its latest networking chip that aims to speed AI. Other movers included Dollar General, which surged nearly 16% as the discount retailer raised its annual sales forecast after surpassing quarterly sales expectations. And CrowdStrike, up 2% at the close, shed more than 6% in extended trading after the cybersecurity firm forecast second quarter revenue below Wall Street estimates. Meanwhile, the White House said President Donald Trump and Chinese leader Xi Jinping are set to speak this week after Trump accused China of violating an agreement to roll back tariffs. The Trump administration wants countries to provide their best offer on trade negotiations by Wednesday, as officials seek to accelerate talks with multiple partners ahead of a self-imposed deadline in just 5 weeks, according to a draft letter to negotiating partners seen by Reuters.
So this is a 100% electric airplane that just flew from East Hampton to JFK with passengers on it, which was a first for the New York Port Authority, for the New York area. And, we covered 70 odd nautical miles in 35 minutes.
To learn this one? No, how many?
The most transformative thing is that you drastically reduce the cost of flying. Charging this thing up and flying out here cost us about $8 in fuel, right? Of course, you have to pay for the pilot, you got to pay for the airplane, but fundamentally it's way less expensive. It's quieter, so the communities are happier. It's a simpler aircraft, so you're quiet, you're accessible, and people love flying it. If you ask the passengers how they liked it, we could talk to each other the whole time. There's no propeller in front of you, there's no jet engine. It's just a quiet whooshing across the plane.
Acts that endanger national security are serious crimes. Therefore, the government will strictly enforce the law and ensure full accountability for activities and actions that jeopardize national security, adhering to the principles of enforcing the law wherever it applies.
追究法律責任到底。